Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thank you so much for joining a very special program put on by the U.S. Mission to ASEAN. I'm your host today. I'm Jason Seymour. I'm the spokesperson for the mission, and it was very, very important to the U.S. government and to me personally that we do something to recognize Air Quality Awareness Week. As we all know, we all breathe, so clean air is very, very important. I'm very proud of the work that the United States has done in the last 10 years, 20 years, 100 years to improve the air in my country. Just looking at some of the statistics on the Environmental Protection Agency's website was very exciting to me. For example, in the past 20 years, we have reduced lead contaminants in our air by 90%. That's an amazing statistic. And it's proof to governments around the world that it is possible to reduce air pollution while having a robust economy that provides job opportunities for everyone. The two are not enemies, they can go hand in hand. We can create a great economy and opportunities for everyone and protect their health and preserve quality air. So that's the topic of the conversation today, air quality. And I have four very special guests for you to discuss this issue, experts in the field. Let's start by introducing each of them. First, I'll say hello to James Schauer. Jamie, hello and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jason.
Please share with us, share with the audience just a little bit about yourself and what you do in the field of air quality.
Thank you. Yeah, so great. It's a pleasure to be here. Just a quick thing about my background. I'm a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison in the College of Engineering, and I also serve as the director for our state public health laboratory. And in that role, my job is to make sure we have data on environmental health issues that can be used to help policy and protect the public. I've been working in air pollution research for about 25 years. I've co-authored about 400 scientific papers. In 2018, I was appointed the U.S. State Department Science Envoy for Air Quality, and I also serve as the editor-in-chief of a leading journal in the air pollution field of atmospheric environment. Just a quick note about connections specifically to Southeast Asia. I began my career as a chemical engineer building oil refineries around the world and petrochemical complexes, including spending some time in the Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. And during that time, I got to experience a lot about air pollution around the world in Asia, Africa, and Europe. And I eventually went back to graduate school to study about air pollution. And I began my studies in Los Angeles when we were beginning to work on the PM 2.5 or haze problem in Los Angeles. And I've been fortunate over the years, the past 25, 30 years, to work in about 30 countries around the world, doing research and also addressing air pollution problems. So I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are really lucky to have someone today with such expertise as you have. So thank you for joining us. We have another special guest who I will now introduce, Prakash Doraiswamy. Hello and welcome to the program.
Hi, Jason. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Prakash Doraiswamy. I'm a principal air quality research scientist at RTI International, which is a nonprofit research institute based in the US with offices around the world. I've been working in the field of air pollution for nearly 19 years, and my experience covers a broad range of areas, including measurements, modeling, data analysis. And I try to apply my expertise in both measurements and modeling to support air quality management strategies and exposure assessments. My personal passion is in building air quality management and monitoring capacity in the developing world. As I grew up in India, I was influenced by the environmental conditions there, and that motivated me to learn more in this field and work around the world in trying to improve the air quality conditions. Specifically related to Asia and Southeast Asia, I'm currently leading a project funded by the US Department of State that's focused on building air quality monitoring capacity of stakeholders in Southeast Asia that is now being implemented in Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. And I'll talk a little bit about it in my presentation a little later. In addition, I've been working on air pollution issues in India, ranging from engaging stakeholders, brainstorming strategies, to current work that is leading the development of a benefits assessment tool. I have also deploying a low-cost sensor network as well in India that helps measure particle concentrations. I am the chair of the editorial review board of the Journal of Air and Waste Management Association. That's one of the oldest journals in air pollution control. I'm also a member of the editorial advisory committee for the AWMA's Environmental Manager publication. I'm glad to be here and look forward to discussing with all of you. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks so much, Prakash, and I'm glad you're here too. And I'm looking at the map that you have behind me, and it reminds all of us that air quality is a global issue. We need the experts from every country to work together to solve this problem. So let's go on to our next guest, Nuttapol Chumnitulakarn. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Jason. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Nuttapol Chumnitulakarn. I'm the YSEALI Professional Fellow for 2018 alumni. So on behalf of the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, I work for this around 10 years more. And I work for the air pollution around 4 years. And we cooperate with the Department of Environment to do the pilot project. So today I will speak about the air pollution in the city context. So you will see what I want to share for you about the what we do, what we did, what we have done for our partnership and our local government. What we do, with what what I can do, and I can share for you. And feel free to ask me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to take a moment just to make a quick plug for the State Department's Young Southeast Asian Leadership Initiative Network. This is a group of 18 to 35-year-olds. And if you're interested and passionate about air quality, the State Department has lots of programs, potential grants for you, potential leadership activities and programs for you, mentors. So we'll put the information for the YSEALI network in the description of this video, but please join us. We would like to work with you on air quality and many other issues. Now let's go to our next guest, Margueritaquina. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jason. Hello, everyone. I am Margueritaquina. I am an Indonesian environmental lawyer with almost a decade of experience doing environmental law cases and advocacy. I dealt mostly with pollution and environmental health issues. Many of the cases I'm involved with are air pollution from stationary sources. And I work with a number of nonprofits and citizen coalition, including networks focusing on air and water pollution, climate and energy, and toxics. So for the past few years, I am assisting some 30 citizens plaintiffs from Jakarta in an effort to compel various government agencies to clean up Jakarta air through a citizen suit, which I'm going to share today. And actually, a lot of the cases that I dealt with in Indonesia, including the air case that I'll share today, were made possible by my education in the US many years ago, owing to the generosity of the US Fulbright program. I studied my master's in Lewis and Clark Law School in Portland, where for the first time of my life, I had a full year of clean air. There was also my first encounter with Clean Air Act, which becomes my second most favorite environmental legislation after CERCLA. And fun fact, many years ago, I chose Portland, not only because it's clean air, but also because it's so outdoorsy and weird. And the craft beer scene was so good.
Excellent. I'm smiling because I'm thinking of where I'm from, which is the west coast of the United States. So I'm glad you got to spend some time there. But seriously, I'm looking at your background, which is an image of Indonesia, and that shows us we have two possibilities where we live. We can have an image like that, which is full of unclean air, or we have another possibility. And I know from the history of the United States and many other countries that once had very, very dirty air, it is possible to make things better. So we're going to enable each of our guests to have a little bit more time to share their expertise. So let's start with Jamie. Please share with our audience some insights that you have about air quality and air pollution.
Thank you, Jason. So I guess I just really want to make a number of key points, which I think are maybe more like conclusions, but major things that I guess are messages I want to share with you. The first point I want to make is that air pollution issues are closely linked to issues related to public health, energy, climate change, transportation, residential and commercial buildings, as well as human development. And I think we need to think about this as not just an independent problem, but really about addressing air pollution. And as we deal with that, we can many co-benefits that can benefit society as a whole, and also requires to engage across many groups. I think also another important point I want to start out with is that air pollution is complicated. There's a lot of pollutants in the atmosphere. I think a lot of what you're going to hear about today is about particulate matter. So these are particles in the air. We often refer to this as PM 2.5. Or fine particulate matter. And if to put this in context, a piece of hair is about 100 microns in diameter. And this is about 10 or 20 times smaller than that. So we're talking about very small particles, but most of the air pollution problems related to haze, like we see in Queen's picture, as well as the health effects associated with air pollution globally, are really due to PM 2.5, and that's why that's been a major focus. So that's what I'm going to talk about, and I expect that you'll hear more about PM 2.5. I just want to emphasize that there are other air pollution issues that we need to be concerned about, things like ozone, mercury, toxics, SO2, but PM 2.5 really is what's plaguing most parts of the world, especially in Southeast Asia. So some key messages I really want to emphasize, and I want to build upon some things that Jason said. Air pollution, the first is that air pollution can be addressed in a cost-effective manner. And there are many examples where effective strategies have been implemented, not only in the US, Europe, some major progress has happened over the past 10 years in China, but there's also been cases like in South America and other parts where we've seen important regulations that have really made a difference in air quality. I think in order to enable those effective strategies, we really need to understand about air pollution. I think one of the important messages I want to also leave you with is that the air pollution sources that affect air pollution are not the same in every city. They're also not the same in every season across the year. So we need to really understand what those are to optimize controls. And I don't mean to say that we should wait before making any control measures or policies until we understand. There are many low-hanging fruit. We know about a lot of the sources, but we really need a robust understanding if we really, really want to drive air pollution below to low levels. And that's really driven by a scientific understanding of air pollution. I would also mention that that air pollution strategies to develop air pollution, and this is really from my observations of things that I've seen in many parts of the world, really require partnerships. And those partnerships really require working with all levels of government. We really need to involve industry. We can't just regulate industry, but they understand their sources and we need to work with them. We need academia to help with scientific investment that helps with doing studies and helping explain the science. We need public interest groups and community-based organizations as well. And really, successful air quality programs, there's many examples where it really brings all these groups together. We can't just pass regulations and expect them to be effective. We need the knowledge of like I said, all levels of government, industry, academia, public interest groups, and community-based organizations. I would also, as I kind of alluded to before, just note that there are many co-benefits of addressing air pollution that can greatly advance human development if it's done properly. This is a critical point as public health. I think I'm not going to provide any data here, but I think everyone's aware that air pollution is associated with a major issue of the global burden of disease. When we talk about clean energy and access to clean energy, issues of transportation and reducing congestion, all of these can be addressed in a way with air pollution. And I think it's really important that we think about air pollution as an opportunity to help benefit society, and can benefit many different things as we're dealing with air pollution at the same time. As Jason said before, I think it's very, very clear from many examples that there are cost-effective manner in which air pollution can be controlled in a way that's consistent with economic growth and development. And this is true. We see this in the US, and I think there's even economic opportunities of clean technology that can really help clean energy, clean transportation, that really fit well with air pollution and economic growth. I think there's important to recognize that there is tremendous advances in the technologies to control air pollution, and those technologies are available. So technology transfer is really important. If we're talking about technologies that are used for vehicles or stationary power generation, there's a lot of technologies that can be put on these sources to reduce air pollution, and that this does not have to reinvent the wheel. Things like making clean fuels, I have personal experience doing that. There's a lot of technologies that are available, and we want to make sure we take advantage of those. I would also add that moving to clean energy can effectively address greenhouse gas emissions. And so there's a lot of aspects, as I mentioned, about the co-benefits of climate. But I would also argue that the reason of clean energy is not necessarily reason to delay dealing with air pollution. We can deal with air pollution with control technologies and also moving to new power systems or new clean energy. So I think there's a lot of opportunities, and we want to make sure we're exploiting all of those to be effective in protecting people from air pollution. It is an immediate problem, and we want to be doing things about that. A few final points I want to make, and then I'm going to turn it back to Jason so others can put in their comments. And that one is I think we'll hear more from Prakash about efforts to monitor air pollution, and monitoring is incredibly important. But I also want to remind everyone that monitoring alone will not reduce air pollution, right? It's not as simple as just saying we know pollution is bad and it'll magically disappear. We need these partnerships. Monitoring can raise awareness, and we all need to contribute to that, but we need to do our work to figure out what are the effective control strategies. I also just want to mention that my experience of working in air quality issues over the past several decades is that we really need to focus on reducing barriers. Sometimes I think we sort of push towards air quality, but I think reducing barriers can be more effective than just pushing. And the reducing barriers to me is partnerships, policy relevant science, technology transfer, engagement with industry and academia, and these groups working together really can help clarify the best pathways forward. And by lowering the barriers that are preventing us moving air pollution can really be successful. And just my final thought I'd like to share is that I just want to say that I am very optimistic that we can address air pollution in a manner consistent with advancement of human development and economic growth. I think there's many things we can do to improve the human condition around the world and advance economic growth at the same time as you're dealing with air pollution. And I think there's good examples of where those successes have been. So thank you for the opportunity to talk, and I'm looking forward to hearing the perspective from others.
Thanks, thanks, Jamie. So many good points. Just to emphasize a couple points that are going to stick with me. One is, if a population is sick, that population isn't going to work. They're not going to their employment. And so there's a direct link between having quality air and a quality economy. And you made that point perfectly. And the other point I want to make, and this is general advice, whether audience members are passionate about air pollution or some other issue, it's important to do your research. You need to know what the problem is, and more information is power. And then, yes, you need to find partners. No one is successful alone. You have to find a team, a network. no matter what the issue is. So thanks for those wonderful points. I just want to make a quick comment for our audience. If you have a question for our panel, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching it later, please put your question in the comments. We will have time for Q&A at the end of this conversation. And if you aren't watching live, we here at the mission can certainly pass your questions on to our speakers because we will maintain our contact. So let's shift now. Let's bring in Prakash.
Thank you, Jason. Let me share my screen.
Excellent. We can see.
Okay, wonderful. Right, I think that was a very good introduction and overview by Jamie. So what I'm going to be presenting, sharing a little bit is in general about the air quality in Southeast Asia and in the context of a global perspective, kind of providing a global perspective. Part of the work that I'm going to be presenting today is funded by a grant from the US Department of State, and we are thankful for that. So Jamie mentioned about the impact of air pollution on health. And so this is a graphic on why do we really need to care about air pollution. Now, this is it's a graphic from a scientific article that's published in the journal based on the most recent estimate of the health impacts. Basically, what I want to drive home is that air pollution is the 4th largest risk of early mortality, just coming right behind blood pressure and dietary risks. And that's the same regardless of whether it's for men or women. And as you can also see in terms of the types of health conditions that result from air pollution, it could range anywhere from cardiovascular disease, chronic respiratory diseases, and even respiratory infections. So it is really important that we manage the air quality. Just taking a next step, air pollution contributes to about 6.7 million deaths globally on an annual basis. And if we look at just the Southeast Asian countries, that's about 7% of the deaths. What I show here is 2 graphics that show the spatial distribution of the estimated number of deaths attributable to air pollution for year 2019. And you can obtain this information from the website that's listed down at the bottom, State of Global Air. And it's also based on the Global Burden of Disease study that Jamie referred to. It was also shown in the previous slide. The map on the top left shows the absolute number of estimated deaths across the world. And the bottom right is once we standardize it, normalize it to the population. So once we normalize it, you can see that most of the developing countries light up with more deaths related to air pollution. And so when we look at what really impacts that, and Jamie mentioned this, so that gives a pretty good introduction overview here. When we look at the types of pollutants that impact health, on the top of the list is fine particles. It's particles that are less than 2.5 micrometers in diameter. And it also originates from what's there outdoor, referred to as ambient fine particles, and as well as from indoor cook stove emissions, which includes fine particles, but also has gases associated with it like carbon monoxide. And so let's switch our attention to fine particles. I wanted to show you how the fine particle concentration looks like in Southeast Asia. And so I pulled data from the AirNow International website that relays data from the monitors at the US embassies and consulates around the world for 4 of the cities here, and then the 2 cities in Thailand, I obtained it from the Thai Pollution Control Department. What I wanted to show here is kind of the range of concentrations that we see. This is an yearly average, and I'm showing it for 3 years, 2018, 2019, and 2020. So you can see the concentrations range anywhere from about 20 micrograms per cubic meter to about 40 micrograms per cubic meter. And it really varies depending on where you are, which region you are. And what's, I guess, behind the scenes, when what's not shown here is also, even though the concentrations, even if the concentrations are similar, the types of sources that contribute to this may be different depending on where you are located. The green line there is the World Health Organization guideline for annual average or yearly average PM 2.5. So that's about 10 micrograms per cubic meter. So you can see that pretty much in Southeast Asia, the concentrations are anywhere from about 2 to 4 times higher than the World Health Organization guideline. To provide a global perspective, if we take, for say, cities in the US, the concentrations of fine particles are typically near or lower than the US standard, which is around 12 micrograms per cubic meter. So if you take Los Angeles, California, the concentration is typically around 11 to 12 or 13 micrograms per cubic meter on an annual basis. Now, on the other hand, if we were to look at other countries in Asia, like for example, India and China, the concentrations are much higher. In India, it's definitely in the hundreds on an annual average basis. And so that kind of tells you the distribution of pollution, the impacts that happens across the world. So to manage that air quality, obviously, one of the important things is to know how much particles are there in the atmosphere. What is the concentration of these pollutants, and then that is an important component of managing the air quality problem. Of course, Jamie rightly mentioned, just measuring is not going to solve it, right? But that is the first step to understanding what's present in the air, how much are you exposed to, where is the pollution coming from, what are the sources, and then help, and so that you can implement device control strategies and implement control strategies. And then once you implement them, then the data from these monitors then helps you track it over time on how the air pollution has changed. So for example, if you were to think, if I go back to the previous slide, I showed data for 2018, 2019, 2020. And so if you continue to measure, in the meantime, you implement regulations, you devise regulations, you implement them, then you will be able to track how the air pollution has changed over time. And so I want to introduce the AQC project, that is the Building Air Quality Monitoring Capacity in Southeast Asia. This is the one that I mentioned in my introduction. So this is funded by the Department of State. And so the objective here is to deploy low-cost fine particle sensor network. And what I mean by a low-cost sensor network is that the data that I showed in the previous slide comes from what is called as reference monitors. Those are the ones that are maintained by the regulatory agencies, but those are really expensive in instrumentation. And so it's spatially sparse in nature. And with the sensors that are much lower cost, then you are able to increase the spatial resolution. In other words, you can deploy a lot more sensors that then helps you to understand how the air pollution is distributed in your region, spatially. And so that is one of the objectives. The other objective is to train the stakeholders to build this capacity in air quality monitoring and management. How do you use this data from the sensors, from the regulatory monitors to manage air quality? So that is part of this in terms of in one of the objectives is to engage and train the stakeholders. And the other important objective is expanding this public awareness and outreach. The public is not always aware of the level of pollution that's there in the neighborhood, in their region, and it really varies from region to region. Some places there's excellent public awareness of the air quality issues, while in other regions that is not a priority for them because there are other more pressing issues. But air quality air is it's an essential commodity, right? It is part of your life, and so that is something that raising awareness of how much you're breathing, what the air quality is like, is important, and that then will help inform or at least raise the public profile of what's important to the public, and so that the government would also then consider it to be important to tackle the pollution problem. So that's where the public awareness and outreach comes in. And of course, the other objective is to apply this data for advanced analysis. Now, this is a collaborative project with team members from Thailand. It includes Chiang Mai University Environmental Science Research Center, National Astronomical Research Institute of Thailand, and then from Laos, National Institute of Laos, and from Vietnam, the Research Center for Environmental Monitoring and Modeling. So we are calling this project as AQC so that it's easier to remember. And like I said, the planned activities are that we'll be deploying these sensors across these 3 regions. We are planning about 100 sensors. This is in addition to 300 sensors that's already deployed in Thailand. And like I said, we'll be doing multiple outreach and public awareness workshops. So stay tuned as we ramp up the project. We will be advertising those, and there'll be more opportunity to learn about what we do, how the data from the sensors look, and what type of policies or strategies might work. We are going to be developing educational materials and awareness videos as well that will help shed more light, and through social media and other avenues as well. And like I said, the expected outcome is, once you have these sensors deployed, then you'll be able to fill the gaps. That's the end goal, whether we can fill the gaps in what I mentioned as a reference monitoring network. That would then lead to a better understanding of the spatial distribution of the concentration. Now, based on that, then you can backtrack and identify what the sources are, and then develop these control policies using several tools, including modeling and other tools that come in as part of this air quality management framework. And it will result in improving the awareness in that region as well as across multiple countries. And so kind of looking at hopefully multi-regional cooperation effort. That is our goal. So just to end this with a graphic here. So the one on the left is a map of the network of reference monitors in these 3 regions. And so you can see that there's definitely a lot of gaps in Thailand, in the central portion, definitely Laos, Cambodia, and the northern portion of Vietnam. And so on the right is an example of how you could fill in those gaps with low-cost sensors. This is a sensor network that I mentioned that Chiang Mai University has already deployed in Thailand. And you can see that by the difference in colors there are spatial gradients, there are spatial differences that you may not pick up with the sparse reference monitoring network. And so that is our hope here, a goal that by deploying these sensors, then we'll be able to understand better the spatial gradients. So with that, I'll end my talk. I think it's the data is the underlying component for understanding and coming up with any policies to control it. And I would like to acknowledge the team, the research team who will be part of this project from CMU, NERIT, CMM, and NUOL, as well as the Department of State for funding this work. And thank you for the invitation, and look forward to being part of the discussion.
Thank you so much, Prakash. I am really excited about this AQC program, and I have so many questions that I can't get through now. But as you said, air is definitely a part of our life. I mean, that's a quite simple statement and so true. I just do want to say one additional comment, because you really illustrated the gravity of what we're talking about, 6.67 million deaths. And while you were saying that, I kept thinking about how much effort we have all undertaken to save lives during this horrible, horrible global pandemic. And we've all done our part, whether tiny things or big things. We've social distanced, we've worn masks, we've done what we can to get vaccines to vulnerable populations. If we can do that as a global community to save lives during this pandemic, then we can work together as a global community to prevent those 6.67 million deaths. So let's do it together. All right, you mentioned Thailand a bit in your talk, and we're going to shift now to learn more about a very special initiative in Thailand from our next guest, Nuttapol. Please join us.
Thank you so much, Jason. And I will share my slide first. Okay, I think you can see my slide is clear. So for my presentation, as I mentioned at the first introduce, I will say about the low emission zone concept with the Pathumwan Clean Air for All project. I will share you about my project in my for BMA. Okay. And as Prakash and all of speaker, Jason and James said, air is a part of our life, right? And that's why United Nations declare air pollution is the list of the factor 1 in 5. And yeah, this will impact you a lot of impact, like the decrease lung function, skin eye disease, tumor, and cardiovascular disease. It depends on the particle size. And the pollutant, we have a lot, like the PM10, PM2.5, ozone 3, and the WOX, NOx, and the SO2. This can make you impact your respiratory system. That's why we think this we should concern about this pollution. Sorry, is okay. And so what factor may cause the more dust? We can divide by 3. The first is a source, right? We discussed about the source, and the second is a meteorological weather condition and topography. But the main source is many kind of things. But for the Bangkok, we can divide by 2 for the mobile source and stationary source. And yeah, for the Bangkok situation, the main thing is the car exhaust. That's because of the only in Bangkok, they have more than 10 million cars accumulated. You can realize from the graph, 2019. And if we calculate diesel car 2 million units, and with the Euro 4, we can produce the dust around 4 tons per day. It's quite a lot. If we calculate for the year, it's the 1,460 tons per year. And if we think concerned about the road traffic in Bangkok, we know that Bangkok is the most traffic jam in the world also, and that's why we consider That's why we consider to implement the low emission zone in the Bangkok area. It's an alternative solution for the traffic problem and the air pollution achieve sustainability also. So BMA want to transform low emission zone. That's why we do the project Clean Air for All. For the left side is a low emission zone. For the right side is a BMA Clean Air for All design. Okay, this is our logo. So this is our project's milestone. We start from the survey, the area first, and we try to analyze what the area we should the selection. And for the 2018, we do the pilot project in the Pathumwan District area. And we do and try to measure for the prepare for the next year, because for next year we try to implement the project to the all Bangkok area. It means other district we will learn from Pathumwan model and select the measurement that suit and fit for them. And for the 2020 in the phase 3, we expanding and do more for the full scale and with the competition. It means we will have the competition with the other district and we will give the award. And we expand the project to cover more. I will show you more. This is the start area. We start from the road first, in the distance 1.5 kilometers, and we extensions area from the past one distance for more in the 2020. And when we increase, the area, we will gain more the local network partner also. That's why we would like to less awareness and youth about the participate together in the local area. For the project timeline, we do research the target area, build a network partner and practice, and implement the project to our Bangkok area, get more model in the different contexts. And finally, right now, we top up and practice more measure. We try to add more like we encourage the entrepreneur in the local area to join and do their control themselves by their employee. Like we will have the green business to add to my project also. It means this zone you have the award, the green business also. So let's see for more. This is a station for the air quality surveillance cover area in the Bangkok, but we can detect PM2.5, not the all, just some area you can see in the symbol. So this is the graph about the, the average amount PM2.5 in the 24 hours in Bangkok area. You can realize that it will be high on the January and February, and also November and December. But when after we did the project, the AQI will going down. It seems like to be good. So this is a graph show PM.5 in the Pathumwan area throughout the project. 2 years. Is the trend, it will be going down. Even though on the October it will be high, but it's not over too high than the last previous year. So we also have the goal, but I think I will share you the later about the short-term measure and long-term measure, because it's quite take time. But I want to show you what we do for the project for more. This is we start from the spot about the emission control, and we try to do the walking campaign and participate with the student and the people, our citizen, to less awareness. So we also survey the area to put the sign for the beginning point. Will be like this to set up the zone, low emission zone. But we will not have punishment at the first. We just said, okay, this zone we will do some activity, we will do some measurement like this to reduce the PM2.5 and test it. And we will have the plan to serve with the public people, citizens, to check their emission about the black smoke is a high level or not, for remind them if we have to put the law or enforce the law, your car is good enough for come to my zone or not. So this is the sign about the starting point and ending point. And this is when we have the campaign. We also have exhibition for the local partner network also. This is we also have the police with our local network also, because of they also enforce the traffic law. That's why if we make our project sustainable, if we get them to be the partner. And this is last year we do also the campaign from the starting point to the end of point in the central area. So this is we also demonstration of the measure back smoke to the people who join our campaign, and also we also have health examination by the health center, and also we also distribute for the tree to absorb pollution to the people who join to come to our exhibition also. This is I would like to share for you about the 6 measure and 12 activity that BMA do it. The first, the first thing is air quality monitor. It's a measure air quality and report to our citizen. And the second is control air pollution from the east many sources, focusing on construction site and car exhausting. But the second activity is emission control from the vehicle, random inspection from the private and the public vehicle, and full inspection for the all BMA vehicle, because of we need to control ourselves first before to control the other guy, right? And for the construction site control, we also clean about the vehicle view because of the dust will be stick on the view, right? And we also ask them to spray the water around to remove small dust also, and tighten the cover and truck. Moreover, cleaning the road is also important. That's why we increase the frequency to washing roads and vacuum the roads and spray the water to cut the road, to cut the dust on the road. Sorry, and but the other thing is quite difficult for us and very challenging because of we are the city context. It's not easy to increase the urban green space, but we try to find the more like the abandoned area to transform to be the plant more green and more tree. And for the traffic management, that's why we have the police to be the partner. We ask them to make it flow in our country. And the good thing is about the public relation and less awareness. We do something is kind of I would like to mention about the promote traveling by public transport. Right now we do about the public transport by clean energy electric. I will share you in the next slide. And also I also sorry, this is okay, cover my slide, I cannot read. Okay, for the also promote for the campaign for the motorcycle driver also to turn off the engine if you don't drive, or the entrepreneur who have the smoke, we ask for smoke breakthrough is quite the good thing to do. This is when we start the before we implement, we will have the meeting, the guideline to die or the project with the network partner first, and after that this is show when we have the emission control from the vehicle, and this is when we control the construction site and increase the washing load. This is what we try to find the increased margin, but it's not too big, but better not, without we didn't do anything, right? We should do better, right? And for the public relation, we also less awareness why we seize and distribute face mask when the dust value exceed the standard. And also we also cooperate from the high-rise building to fit the water spray system in order to cut the to purify. I think it's not a good idea, but we try to do everything we can do. And moreover, for the public local air, we also, because of Thai people use light application for more, we also have the light application official, and we put the menu for the people can check when they come to the Pathumwan area. They can know the what the quality of air in my area. And so that's I mentioned before, we promote the public service vehicle with the elementary friendly energy. This is from the distributed by the Toyota. I cooperate with the Chulalongkorn University. They call the Hamo. It's you can drive everywhere with this, and but they will have stopping point for recharge also. And the left side is a tuk-tuk, but right now tuk-tuk is electric tuk-tuk. It will be safe and clean, and you can go everywhere by the calling app like the Grab. This is the thing we should put on the my area. That's why I want to promote. And so that I mentioned before, I promote the maintenance engine to reduce the pollution for the motorbike taxi driver and smoke field. So this is some of public relation material we do, and this is Finally, our partner network also have the public many kind of the things such as entrepreneur, university, temple, transportation, loyal Thai police, and many kind of government. So no matter how smart you are, I think this is my good quote to remind myself. If you don't have any good team, everything cannot be done. Air pollution is a public problem. That's why we have to collaborate together. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Nuttapol. And I'm so happy that the US government supports programs like yours. You have so many good tips for Southeast Asians and Americans who want to do similar projects. And you would be an excellent mentor. So again, I say to our audience, if you're interested in doing a program specifically like Nuttapol's, reach out to us. We can put you in contact, and he would be a great mentor. And the other comment that I want to make as well is 17 million trips in Bangkok a day. And I know many Thai people, they're just really busy. They're doing their job. They need to get to work. They need to pay the bills. They're so busy, they haven't given a lot of thought to air quality. And that's why it's so important to have public awareness campaigns such as yours and let people know, hey, you have options. There are little things that you can do and you can have an impact. So thank you so much for describing your project. Now I want to switch over to our fourth guest, Quina. We're switching to Indonesia now. Please join the program.
Sure. Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you so much, everyone. It's so wonderful to see the initiatives all over the world. But I want to be sharing a project. I am sharing a case, which makes me pretty anxious because it's so different with what you guys have been doing. But the case that I'll be sharing is a citizen suit to compel the government to do actions to get our air complying with the standards, with the NACs. So at the bottom line, you can see that Jakarta air quality is so bad. It's kind of like twofold until threefolds of the national ambient air quality standards for the annual measurement. But fun fact, the awareness, the realization that our air was actually that polluted was really recent. It was only starting in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe 2018. And I really want to echo what James said earlier, that monitoring does raise awareness. In 2015, there's no publicly available monitoring data from official sources that Jakartans can access. So pollution was very much a part of our daily life. And campaigners and advocates actually thought that the campaign will never take off because we're so used to dirty air, we don't know the alternatives. It was only in 2016 and 2017 when the US Embassy air quality monitor data and some NGOs citizen monitoring initiatives that make air pollution get its way to the public awareness. And that is actually when more conversations start to happen. And actually, even with that data for a pretty long time, it was kind of like 1 or 2 full years, there was no acknowledgement from the government. So there's this period of confusion, of technocratic debate on different indexes and the standards. Oh, Indonesia uses ISPU and that data uses AQI, those are different. So it took a long time and it took some FOI requests actually to really obtain the annual measurement result of all of the parameters for us to understand that since the measurement began, our ozone and PM 2.5 has been breaching the national and the local ambient air quality standards. And so when this awareness took off, we started to have a number of organizations sharing about past efforts that they've been doing to get the government to do something. And we soon figure out that the government did do something. There are a lot of things that has been done. But the problem is many of them are just business as usual. Many of them are not based on science, not based on an emission inventory or kind of like apportionment of where the emission sources comes from. So Jakarta hasn't got an action plan forever. And in fact, no city in Indonesia have ever created an air pollution action plan, ever. And we also realized that Jakarta never formalized the emission inventory studies that many academia, and actually one of the study was contributed by a USAID sponsored program. So a lot of those studies are available, and we hunt for past data and initiatives to figure out to what extent the government agencies should have known. And to our surprise, we found quite a lot of studies and recommendation never made it to the government programs. So there's this gap between the routine government program of air pollution control with the knowledge, the amount of information and the amount of scientific data that is available and recommendation that has directed government to take really specific actions. And that includes predictions of early deaths, particle characterization, even how Jakarta air is influenced by pollutants in other provinces. So in 2017, some Jakartans decided that it's decided to go to the court. And the way I like to think about this court proceeding, despite it's a case, despite it seems so kind of like side to side, but it's actually really good participation effort, because in doing this case, we have to assemble all of the scientific evidence that's scattered all over and consulting experts about the appropriate asks. So you can see in the screen, those are the big asks of the Jakarta Air citizen suit. And the asks are really, really about three things. One is acknowledgement that our air is polluted, and the acknowledgement about the health harms, because one of the interesting fact we found out in the case was the Minister of Health doesn't think that they have a legal obligation to assess and communicate those risks, all the non-communicable diseases linked to the air to the citizen. So the second part of the ask is please, please, please design and program, spend your money based on the science and based on the evidence of what the appropriate actions are. So in controlling the air pollution, we really have to figure out what the sources are, and cannot really bring the air quality to a healthier concentration if the development programs doesn't really look into the impact of each program. So it really needs collaboration as well from different government agencies, because Jakarta cannot do it alone. Jakarta cannot control the sources in Banten or in West Java, in the neighboring provinces. And Jakarta also it's out of the Jakarta's reach if national government have a development program that will really burden in Jakarta air, and Jakarta only relying on business as usual alternatives. So those asks are actually a long way of process. We try to combine all of the past recommendation, including the recommendation from the Breathe Easy Jakarta that USAID has worked with the local organizations in 2015, 2014. And we also tailor those asks. We got an amicus curiae brief from the UN Special Rapporteur of Human Rights and the Environment that outlined the 7 key actions that the government must take to to get air pollution under control. And it's really all of these 7 asks that if any future cities have to suffer what Jakarta is suffering, and there's a similar kind of like similar characteristics or contexts. So these are really the key steps to acknowledge and to evaluate the achievement of the ambient air quality standards, and to continuously improve that, to integrate the health impact consideration in development decisions, and really create an air pollution reduction plan that is based on an emission inventory. It sounds so technocratic, but it's really about kind of like using the resources effectively and not only kind of like doing business as usual. And detection and enforcement is also really important, and public participation in designing the plan, in inviting the studies. It's really important to be transparent and allow public comments and participation. Well, including the industry participation, as James mentioned earlier. And the last one is effective collaboration that is beyond business as usual. So yeah, I hope this helps, and really looking forward for discussion.
Wow, thank you so much, Quina. And thank you to my guests. I originally told them we would chat for an hour. We're going a little bit overboard, and I understand if they need to leave, but I'd like them to stay if they can for a few more minutes, because we have received some questions. But Quina, you really illustrated how there's a constant dialogue and conversation with government. Sometimes they immediately get our causes and they are a fast partner. And sometimes it takes conversation, it takes dialogue, it takes a lot, some pushing, some pulling, some back and forth. And if you look at the history of the United States government, that is definitely a part of our history. We have a democratic country, and groups have popped up, continue to pop up, and there's constant dialogue. Sometimes it's friendly, sometimes it's not, but we keep going and we keep working. And thank you for the hard work you're doing, in particular, because I live in Jakarta and I would love for the air to get better. Quina, we'll have to meet sometime in person. I hope I get to meet all my guests, but since I'm in Jakarta. We do have some questions. So again, thank you to my guests for staying on a little bit longer. We've had some great questions. And one question came in, and it's kind of related to what Quina was discussing, and all of you have mentioned the importance of partners. So in terms of the AQC project, in particular in Southeast Asia, Prakash, how has the relationship been with the government as you have pursued putting in these monitors?
Right, Jason. So we are just starting on the project. So we are in the process of reaching out to the stakeholders. At least in Thailand, we have a few contacts. We hope to leverage our team members there, have good relationship with the local municipalities. So we will know more as we kind of progress through the project. But that is part of the process. We hope to engage them in this discussion and help them understand the value of the data for the air quality management purposes.
And I have to say thank you to, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Sarinyar from Thailand, who was asking that question. Jamie, I'd like to ask you, you were talking at the top about partnerships. Have you seen, do you have an example of a partnership that you observed throughout your career that you thought was a really good role model that other countries or groups or individuals should be inspired by?
Yeah, I think, I think there's two things that I would point out, and one is what Quina talked about, is the partnerships across different levels of government. I think that's a really important point. And I think that's something that for things to work, we really need, I don't know if I'm breaking up or not, but to really need that type of cooperation. I would argue that probably, I would argue that probably the thing that I've found to be the most important partnership that we can't take for granted because it takes work is the partnerships with industry. I think that it's important to understand that industry has knowledge about sources that other groups don't have. And I think it's really important to make sure they're at the table. Passing regulations that are probably not feasible, that really are not optimal, really is not going to get us where we need to be. And so I think that partnerships with industry, we've seen the U.S. History, as you said, sometimes conflict, sometimes cooperation. We started out in the early 70s and 80s with not so much cooperation, but when that cooperation got better in the 90s and 2000s, that was tremendous breakthroughs on air quality. And I think we see the same thing happening in China as well. And I think that that's a really, really important issue and something that we've been trying to promote in projects that I've been involved in.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And Nuttapol, I have a question for you. I hope I pronounced this name correctly. Aikapal Aikakarumgraj. I do apologize if I mispronounced that correctly, but it's a great question. And this individual wants to know more about how you came to select specifically the Pathumwan area.
So because of we try to do kind of this survey around, and we first thing we try to consider concern about our partner. We can do it together. We have the good relationship first for the first project for the pilot, and after that, if we have we do with them and our project is going good, and in the good thing, we have the model to propose to the other partnership to join us. And I will try to encourage them, like what if you join, what you will get. And because of my district is the center city, so we almost the entrepreneur, they also have CSR. That's why if they want to have the good image also, that's why I ask them to join us. It's kind of the win-win together, win-win solution, and we can help the world also. This is the good thing I would like to mention you. So it's not good if you are government and you enforce them to join. It's not good. You will not give the good relationship or the good work or the good thing to do and work together and go together. But the good thing, you should ask them and propose them what they will get, what we will do together, and what the thing is kind of what the thing we can do is together and make it the world better. This is the good thing we should propose them. Thank you so much.
Sure. And Nuttapol, I just want to ask you one follow-up question. Both in the United States and Southeast Asia, I'm sure there are excellent members of the police, and then there are some members who are not excellent. So sometimes people are very afraid to establish a relationship with the police. And you mentioned that you worked with police officers as part of your project. How did you make that? What strategy did you have when you went and contacted the police? How did you make that a positive experience?
Maybe because of the we are the same, we are the government also, but we try to propose it's kind of the way we can do it together, because it's not easy to enforce them, because they will not under us, because they are also unique. They are also police. We are also local government. We can enforce together, but we can what we can share, what we can do together. So it's kind of okay. Right now, we will have something project like this. And so you are also in my area, and for the gain for more, what do we get? It's kind of the problem is not you will not how to fix this problem. If the traffic is not a lot like this, we can reduce. If we can use this kind of the limit the car to join the zone, it will be you can focus the other more. And because of my area have the palace also, I will ask it will be better if the clean air for more in the area and make the good image in the city. Because of the city center is have a lot of economic. Our goal of the we have to put the economic activity for more. If we have some problem like this, the economic activity cannot do, and also it will be have the bad image for our district also. That's why we ask them to help, we ask them to join, and also we have the good partner for the previous time also. That's why it's easy to make them join, make them help, make them ask, because we also work together for the emission control also.
Thank you. Thank you. Always good to create those partnerships and to give it a try. Even if you may not think that this potential partner could be a partner, it's worth a shot. Sometimes it works out. Quina, I want to ask a question for you. So in the past year, I know that there were moments when the air pollution situation was a lot better in Jakarta, primarily because of the policies instituted related to the global pandemic. So because the government was able to see that, hey, there are some policies we could institute that could reduce the air pollution, do you think that they've been inspired by any of those policies, or do you expect it to go, when we recover from the pandemic, will it go right back to what it was in 2019?
That's a really difficult question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to be honest, I've seen a lot of developments, kind of like from the government actions that is more on point on air pollution. For example, there's a work with the kind of like sustainable transport organizations, and Jakarta phase also has been really well reformed with the MRT, with the bike lane. I really enjoy the bike lane. But also on the other hand, there's quite a big push for industrialization and creating ease, environmental ease, lowering environmental safeguards, especially will benefit the fossil fuel and also some stationary sources. So that is actually one line of concern. And we know some of the environmental organizations in Indonesia have raised concerns about the weakening safeguards. And it could be not really a wise use of resource when you are kind of like really dealing with transport, but putting more stationary sources without really kind of like strengthening the emission control. But we don't know. I can't really predict. There's good side and the bad side, but one of the things that I really want to emphasize is there are government counterparts who use the momentum really well. So using the case as the leverage, using the pandemic as the leverage to create more environmentally friendly reforms. And there's also the other forces out there that really go in favor.
Thank you so much. And I know that was a tough question because I asked you to predict the future. Wow, there's so many more questions I'd like to ask all of you. I just want to ask one more question, and then unfortunately we'll have to wrap up. But this question is for Jamie. And we had a question from a gentleman, sorry, I don't know if it's a gentleman or woman, but from someone named Jiro Suk, I'm going to change the question a little bit to wrap us up. A lot of people are thinking that during COVID-19, the primary reason that PM 2.5 went down is just because we weren't using our cars as much. Is that accurate, or are there other reasons why air pollution went down during the pandemic?
Yeah, that's a really important point and a very important question. And I would say a couple things that I would want to note is that there's been a lot of scientific studies looking about what happened during COVID. And one of the things that I think is important to recognize is some of the reductions in pollution were purely due to meteorology and changes in the season. For those who know that air pollution is typically worse in the wintertime in many locations, it gets better. And so there's been a lot of scientific efforts looking at the attribution of the decreases to meteorology, seasonal changes, and how much is due to actually reduction in sources. There's no question that some of that's reduction in sources, but vehicles is one. There's also been large changes in some of the industrial output as well. I think we know that people largely were still cooking their food and still doing things at home. So I think that mobile sources are important vehicles, but they're not the only contribution. So I think it's important that we, there's a lot of emerging knowledge happening right now showing what % of those reductions are due to vehicles and what % is due to meteorology and what is due to industrial sources. And they are distributed. They're different for different locations around the world, and they're actually different for different pollutants. So that's an important issue. But I do think that there are many cities like in New Delhi and other places where we had a glimpse of what clean air looks like. And hopefully, you know, maybe answering parts of the question asked to Quina is that maybe the public will say, we really like that clean air. We like to see the horizon. We like the clean. And so hopefully that will be an important motivation for the public to help drive that forward. And I think, you know, the COVID situation was a very difficult situation everywhere in the world, but you know, it did give us an example of some things that we can at least aspire to in terms of clean air.
I'm sure we were all saying yes in our minds or nodding our heads, the audience as well, when we heard that. We saw what was possible. That's one silver lining in the horrible pandemic. And the other comment I really want to emphasize for the audience as well, one of the things I really, really respect about the scientific community is they don't like coming to conclusions quickly. They want to investigate, they want to do research, they want to look at the data, they want to look at it again, and then look at it a third time and a fourth time. So to draw conclusions about why we had that reduction in air pollution is going to take a little bit of time to really come to solid conclusions. And I applaud the scientific community for taking their time. So, okay, the time just flew by. I even had my guests stay over a little bit so we could ask or have them answer some questions. Thanks for the great questions from the audience. Thank you to my guests so much. You had such interesting presentations. I was riveted the whole time. You're all working hard for something that I care about very strongly, clean air. The US government cares about this as well. The global community cares about this. Let's keep up the effort together. So thank you so much, audience, for joining us for this chat. And until the next time, thanks so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nuttapol, Prakash, James.
Thank you so
Likewise.
much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.